Right guys, this is part 1 of my series of videos on stealth, including camouflage. And part 1, I'm going to show you some ghillie suits and the normal uniforms and how well they blend in with the background, how effective they are. Right, the first thing I'm going to show you is working from the top. I'm going to show you a basic outfit that if you're a beginner, you'll be wearing this. And the first thing I want to point out here is that the character I choose doesn't have very kind of white, pinky sort of skin, and he's wearing face camo. So basically, he's a very tanned or dark-skinned guy with camo sort of face paint on, and that really helps, especially if you haven't got a balaclava on or anything like that. Now, this isn't too bad. Basically, I'll just show you if you lie down in the grass. In terms of camouflage, this guy's not too bad. Okay, he sort of stands out a bit there, but believe me, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. So yeah, that is, not too bad. Now, this guy here is actually worse, in my opinion, especially if you don't have any camo gear, camo face paint, and if you've got very light skin, because you see the mixture. You've got the legs are a different color to the body, and then your carrier rig's a different color again, and you've got a very bright thing around the back of your neck there. It's all in bits. Like what I mean is that you've got legs, body, back of the neck, head. They're all different, distinct colours, and so it separates those parts of the body, and it makes it easier for the enemy, for an observer, to actually see that that is a human being. You need something that's all one colour or one disruptive pattern sort of colour, more like this, where basically his helmet is the same as his top and his trousers. So if I then lie down in the grass over here, go prone, you see how the trousers, I mean, there's things on his legs and his boots that stick out a bit, bits of the carrier rig stick out a bit, but generally that's more a uniform sort of shade across all parts of his uniform there. So that's better, that's a lot better. This server also allows the Spec Ops gear. So now at the moment, if I just lower my weapon, you can see my face. You've got the goggles, which I guess could kind of glint in the sun a bit. You've got to be careful of that. So yeah, it is shiny. In real life, you've got to watch out for things like wristwatches and anything that might glint in the sun. Now the Spec Ops guy has got a balaclava on. So there we go, balaclava. Now, the only thing in real life I don't like about balaclavas, 3-hole balaclavas, is that you've got to breathe through your mouth, and I prefer to breathe through my nose. And even if you had your mouth covered, the volume of your voice really wouldn't be affected at all. Just that sort of material doesn't really do anything to the volume of your voice. You can still speak perfectly clearly, but the problem is that when you've got your nose covered by this material, it's just a bit annoying. What I actually wear in real life from doing anything like this is a snood, which is a lot thinner, and it's actually a MTP sort of pattern. And so it's not just a single colour like this balaclava is a kind of an olive, dark sort of olive colour. So that single colour is not ideal anyway. But the thing with the snood is you can breathe through it a lot more easily. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lie down over here again in the grass, just so you can see. Again, it's very similar to the standard infantry guy there. Now, one thing I did notice, yes, bare arms, not good, not good at all. You don't want to have your sleeves rolled up. In real life, don't roll your sleeves up. So let's have a look at the other guy. See, this guy's got long sleeves. That's better. Now let's have a look down at it. Yeah. Lie him down. If you look at his arms, if you say you crouch or something, say you're in a low crouch or sat down like this, you can just see a bit of his wrist and the ends of his fingers. His gloves are black as well. In real life, you really want fully camouflage MTP gloves. So that's the standard sort of uniforms that you would get. Then you've got the ghillie suits. Obviously, your commander there has got a very open face, and you don't want a cap. The officer, don't ever choose that guy, because in real life, your officers would always wear helmets. They wouldn't be running around with just a cap or something ridiculous on. There's all these tend to need DLC, and you can see how some of them are just not ideal for camouflage at all, and not ideal for anything at all. They've got no protection, and some of them are just very bright. But I know for a fact this guy, the CBRN, chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear guy, he's got very low armor values anyway. Look at that, very low, even though he's got a helmet. So anyway, ghillie suits, right. So the one on the left here is the vanilla Arma 3 ghillie suit. These last three are in the Marksman DLC, which is well worth getting. We just missed it recently. It was on sale for £2.50, along with a lot of the other DLC for that price. So it can be very, very cheap DLC in the sale, and you don't just get the ghillie suits, these three ghillie suits, you also get the a nice range of marksman rifles, and you get the SPMG and the Navid light machine guns, which are not light at all, they're very heavy, but they are extremely effective machine guns. So the Marksman DLC is really good if you want to play King of the Hill and get some decent weapons. So anyway, I'm going to show you the vanilla ghillie suit. Now, first thing I want to mention about this is the head and shoulders still stand out. You can still see that that's actually a person's head and shoulders. It's not disguising that shape, which is one of the S elements of camouflage, is shape, S for shape. So I'm going to now lie down in the grass with this guy, and you'll see that he really doesn't blend in with the grass at all. He blends in better with certain things like wood, and particularly there's a fallen down tree. I've noticed it's the same sort of thing. It's, from certain angles, he's not as visible in front of a tree. So look next to a wall. So here next to a wall. He's like halfway up it. Yeah, not ideal. Also notice his legs are not covered by the ghillie. It's a kind of a half ghillie suit. Another little technique, by the way, is if you go down one more, now that he's got his belly showing very clearly there, but if you're on the other side, if you turn around and go down, and you lie on that side, that can look quite well hidden. So anyway, it is more effective than I'm showing you there. It looks a bit better than what you've seen there. Also bear in mind a couple of points. Grass is not visible from a far distance. If you look over there, you can't see 3D grass. You can see a bit of grass here, but then once you get further out, the grass has disappeared. It's just flat. So if you're lying down in the middle of that, you're very much more visible in Arma. Bear in mind that's just in the game. In real life, obviously, you can use grass. Same thing with shadows. If you look at, say, for example, the trees, that bush over there, there's no shadow under that. Just look at the trees all the way over here. So look, even over there, no shadows. I've got my shadows set to about 50 meters. And that's not deliberately to cheat or anything, it's just so that my frame rate is acceptable. So basically, in real life, you want to use shadows as much as possible to hide. You've got to be careful of shadows as well, because if you've got the sun behind you, so look, just trying to see if I can see my shadow on the ground. Yeah, you can sort of see the shadow on the ground there. But the sun's directly overhead. But if you've got the sun behind you a bit and your shadow sticks out, that can be really dodgy, because as you come out from, you can see that shadow there. So if I do this, or if I'm standing like that, you can kind of see that shadow. But it is directly below me in this example. It's the wrong time of day to really illustrate that point. You've just got to make sure that your shadow isn't in front of you and out in the open, because the enemy will see your shadow. They won't be able to see you, but they'll see your shadow sticking out and go, oh, look, there's a guy hiding behind that bush or that tree. So that's the vanilla ghillie suit. Now the semi-arid, which I think is the best in terms of for a variety of different backgrounds. If I lie down here in the grass, you'll see that this works really well in a mixture of terrain. It can be sort of in certain bits here. If you look, oh, it's glitching a bit. Oh god, it's awful. Yeah, that's not too bad. Quite well hidden there. So that's semi-arid. If I was to lie down in a very dry area, then I'd stand out a bit more. So that does stand out more. So just be aware of the type of ghillie that you're wearing compared to what you're trying to take cover in. The same with any kind of camouflage. In real life, you might get some bracken. If you lie in a bed of roses, you're going to stick out a mile. You know, if you're wearing bracken as an extra thing, you want to be lying around in bracken. So again, here, now this is the lush. Now that works really well against green grass. So any area where you see some real greenery, like this bit here is very green. So lie down here. Obviously the rifle sticks out a bit because it's sand coloured. Unfortunately, in King of the Hill, you don't now get to choose different colours for your rifle. You used to be able to. I used to be able to buy different camo patterns for rifles, and that was great. But as far as I can tell now, you can't, which is a real pain. And then you've got arid. Obviously, works really well against sort of sand colour like this. So I'm lying down here. That works really well against the background that's dry. But you will stand out if you're up against something that's green. Look how much your shape sort of stands out. But then again, you could look like you're just a dry patch in the middle of a load of greenery. I've got that grass glitching through my body there. Another thing you need to be aware of. This arid, so you might think that this isn't great because it stands out against grass, but it's actually a little bit better up against a wall, like a light wall. It's not great, but it's actually better when you're wearing green camo. So let's say if we go back to an infantryman. One place where your camo will really stand out is if you're up against a wall like this. Look at that. You really stand out against any kind of white or light background. So you've got to be careful of that. Just take note of that. So there we are. That's pretty much ghillie suits, some basic stuff. Use shadows to your advantage. Use cover that looks as close to your ghillie suit as possible. I tend to go for semi-arid just so that, because I tend to use first person a lot, so I don't like to play in third person, so I don't really get to see what I look like against a variety of backgrounds. Yeah, if I start to crawl underneath a bush, it's much harder to see me. Imagine someone trying to walk over the top of you there, they just wouldn't notice you. And there's various other techniques later on that I'm going to mention, like moving slowly or just being stationary, because obviously movement catches the eye. So there we go, that's some just basic notes on ghillie suits.